Great. Looks like we are at the top of the hour.
We are. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is our bi weekly Subspace office hours where we get together with the community. Our primary focus here is to answer any questions that you have. So if you do have any, please feel free to raise your hand or you can post your questions in the chat. We'll be happy to get to them. We want to thank you all for taking the time to be here. We know that everyone is very busy, and it's great to see a lot of the same people coming every other week to join us. My name is Todd. I'm here with Justin, as always, our fearless leader here at Office Hours. So, Justin will be running us through some of the things that are going on, but just a few quick announcements before we get started. As always, keep your eyes on our Telegram, the Discord, the Twitter account, and also forum.subspace.network, where we're making announcements. And you'll see a lot of them coming out. There's a lot of exciting things happening as we gear up for launch. As everyone knows, we're just wrapping up the Gemini 2 testnet, and Justin is going to bring us some great information about that. One final thing, again, as always, we are hiring. Subspace is always on the lookout for good candidates. We're looking for people to join the team potentially. We've been growing consistently. Gosh, Justin, I think when we came over a year ago, there was maybe what, 5 or 6 people here, and now we're approaching 30 people rapidly. So the team is growing. We have jobs posted. They are on the jobs board on the Subspace website. So if you are interested, please check out the listings. Of course, we're always looking for ambassadors. We're looking for moderators. We're looking for meme creators and a lot of other skills. So if you're active in the community and you would like to get more involved, please go ahead and hit us up on Discord or in the Telegram. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, Justin, I'm going to pass it over to you. How are things?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. It's nice to be back. I was away for some time there, so it's great to see you all back at office hours. Um, so yeah, well, as have all seen, we have completed Gemini 2. It was about a month long. We ran through September and through October, and wrapped it up just a few weeks ago. Overall, we wanted to say thank you to all of the amazing farmers who supported us during this phase, especially those who have been since the earlier versions. You've been sticking it strong with us as we've continued to make improvements. Luckily, in this version of Gemini 2, we were able to verify that we had resolved a lot of the larger issues we had faced in previous versions, and also we're able to see the amazing support from all of you in the community as well. We would love to hear any feedback or any suggestions that you may have. We have a closeout survey that I'll post into the event chat right now that we would love to see any feedback on. Any ideas, those kinds of things, feel free to toss those in there. We're also into the suggestions channel as well. We're always very keen on iterating and improving this process as we move forward. So if you've got something in your sleeve, please throw it our way. But overall, we consider Gemini 2, a pretty decent success. We saw up to, over 27,000 max concurrent live nodes with over 60 countries being represented, which is definitely striving towards our goal of decentralization. And then over 1.3 petabytes plus of total storage space pledged, which was pretty impressive, especially considering this version was capped out at about 100 gigabytes per user. As mentioned, we have rewards being issued for this incentivized testnet. 0.05% of the total supply is going to be distributed equally to over 79,000 different qualified reward addresses. Those are the addresses that have over 0.5 TSFC to qualify. And we also have 0.5% of the total supply being distributed proportionally to the amount of TSFC that was farmed to those qualified reward addresses with over 3 TSFC. So just to make that simple, 0.5 to qualify for the baseline, and then anything above 3 is when you start getting those proportional rewards as well. Overall, we did see a pretty equal distribution. We are still doing some analysis on the balance of all of those rewards and everything, and we should have some updates for you all here shortly regarding that as well. Just giving you that information, showing you that this rewards distribution is decentralized and not that there was one farmer who won everything or something along those lines. And obviously, We wanted to just give a huge shout out to all of the amazing community members, who help support our community, those who are answering questions all day, and just those people who are staying in Discord and ensuring that everyone who joined had their questions answered and was able to get their node up and running. Thank you to all of our moderators, all of our ambassadors, all of our content creators, and just all of you amazing community members who have shown your dedication to Subspace over the past few months. It really does mean a lot to us here at Subspace. Beyond that, as you all know as well, Diana has been working pretty tirelessly, and the ambassador team, Diana and the ambassador team, have been working pretty tirelessly on reviewing the thousands of ambassador applications that they have received over the past few weeks. I know some of you may be wondering for updates and things like that. The team will be reaching out to those users that have made it and have moved on to the next stages here in the next coming days with emails, things along those lines. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Diana as well regarding the ambassador program. We're always happy to help. Alrighty. Now moving forward, now that we've closed out Gemini 2, I'm sure the big, large question that a lot of you also have as well is exactly when is Gemini 3 starting? So as always, just as we are, we're pretty excited to get moved into Gemini 3. Just to give you guys some insight into kind of our goals and what that timeline might be looking like. Obviously, this isn't anything set in stone, but more of an estimation. Currently, the team is reviewing all of the lessons learned and things that we saw in Gemini 2. Once we are able to kind of consolidate all of this feedback, and kind of get our lessons learned written down and documented and kind of planned out, the development team will start moving into Gemini 3. Luckily, as always, our amazing development team has actually already started making progress on the code base for Gemini 3. Obviously, there's still a little bit of progress to be made, but hopefully we can start to see internal testing for Gemini 3 here in the coming weeks. Once again, that won't be necessarily the launch of Gemini 3, but we will start to see, the testing of that code base and the improvements that we wanted to make, hopefully getting us closer to that goal. Some of the things that we'll be focusing on Gemini 3 is going to be, I would say, a lot of the things with the farmer experience. Hopefully that experience will be significantly improved and a little bit more friendly for the non-tech users once we get some of these changes implemented. But obviously that will be, as we go. Thought I was curious. I know you've been present through all of our test maps. What is it that you were most excited to see within the Gemini 2 from our community?
In addition to just the sheer number of people that we have running nodes, it's really the interaction. One of our focuses all along is to build an organic community. Everybody, I'm sure, is aware that we haven't been out shouting from the rooftops, "Hey, join Subspace." It's not about the masses; it's more about quality than it is quantity. And I've just been really impressed by the level of interest. If you go and look in the chats, I mean, you can see we're getting people from all over the world, from different ecosystems that are just interested in what Subspace is trying to do, and it's just been really encouraging for myself, and I know for everybody on the team, just to see the conversation. There's been so much talk about the things that we're doing, people who really understand it and are really supporters of what Subspace is trying to build. And as you said, Justin, their support is, we just can't thank people enough. I mean, it's been great. Really looking forward to Gemini 3 and, of course, the launch next year when Subspace will go live. And I know everybody else is very excited for that as well. So it's really, I would say the conversation and the enthusiasm, Justin, have been the biggest things for me. How about you? Any additional thoughts on that?
Honestly, I'd have to agree. Obviously, we have many, many amazing community members, but throughout the bear market and I guess the world being in the state that it is today, it's great to see all of you amazing community members still coming together and helping us with this common goal of Subspace. on a daily basis. Something that I've been super excited to see has been how the community's really also been expanding and starting to take on their own initiatives. Actually, kind of on that same note, we wanted to make sure to give some shout outs to some of the community initiatives we've been seeing over the past few weeks. Um, One in particular, if you any Twitter users out there, make sure to check out our new ambassador community Twitter account that has been ran. It's going to be at Club Subspace. They've actually just started their first meme contest, and if I'm not mistaken, there is some rewards on the line for the winners of this meme contest. So definitely make sure to check it out and submit any awesome subspace memes you may have to them, and maybe it'll work out in your favor moving forward.
Can I ask a question about that, Justin? I see a lot of talk in the chats, and it's something that I have not been able to follow too closely. I know Skylord AFK, shout out to him, is listening, and I've seen a lot of posts about bigtime.gg, a play to earn game. Is there anything else you can talk about Big Time? I see these NFT prizes, and there's early access Ruby passes for this play to earn. So, what does that involve exactly? I know I think it's till November 7th. People can submit their memes, but what is BigTime.gg?
Yeah, so that is the prize that is being issued for this little contest that community account's running. It's going to be I believe it's an NFT early access prize, and for the first, second, and third place winners. Big Time is a play to earn RPG game. They kind of follow a lot of the similar play to earn mechanisms that you may see in some of the broader gaming NFT space. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they're based on Ethereum, but they're still in early access. They haven't quite fully launched just yet. But this access pass would be, for that early access that's coming out here shortly. This is actually one of the first giveaways we've done for anything that's like outside of Subspace, but just one of the ways that us and the community are continuing to try and make sure that we provide for all of you. Is it going to be a great game? Good game, bad game? It can't say this isn't an official endorsement or what have you, but more so at least a chance to check it out and get early eyes on in something that may be fun for you gamers in the crypto space.
Cool, very good to see.
Definitely, and this is just the start as well. Obviously, we'll continue to kind of move forward with these initiatives, or should I say, the community team, Ambassador and Skylar. We'll continue to move forward with these initiatives, and hopefully we can just start to give back to the community a little bit. Beyond that, we've also been seeing a few other great users that have just been contributing pretty consistently to the community. One that's really been standing out to me is a user named NitroGL, who's just been writing these really amazing in-depth write-ups in the DeFi channel. Almost like a page or so long of just like the daily update essentially on what their thoughts are within in various different stocks and in the DeFi space. One of those kinds of things that are great to see because he's just taking his time and adding value to our DeFi channel, trying to really spice it up a little bit and make it more exciting for users. So I just wanted to give him the credit and shout out that he deserves. And on that same note, wanted to also mention a node monitoring tool that one of our ambassadors, Jim, had started to get sorted. Meant to surface this a little bit sooner into the incentivized testnet, but at least wanted to make all of the community aware of it, because if you are running a node either now or in the future, you may find this monitoring tools very helpful. We've also thrown the link in the chat there for you. But that'll just basically help you keep an eye on your node, making sure that it's running, connected, and not having any major issues. But as always, just once again, wanted to say thank you to all of you amazing community members for just helping everybody out as always, and just being the great community that you are.
It doesn't look like we have any questions, and it's always kind of a quiet time, I think, Justin. When we wrap up, the test net things tend to calm down a little bit. We can get back to building, but one of the things that I like to do is go through and just kind of see what people are talking about and see what some of the common questions are. And again, if anybody has any, please go ahead, throw it in the chat, raise your hand. We'd love to hear from you. But there's a lot of conversation around hard drives, Justin, and the best ones to use. And I know this is something that you're very knowledgeable of. So people are talking about SSDs versus other kinds. And these are things that we've talked a lot about in the past, but maybe for anyone who's new, I know there's been a lot of different options out there. And again, this goes back to our community and the depth of the conversation. People getting into really granular details about the best hardware to use, Justin. So, what have you seen? I guess as being kind of the most common things people are using, and then I don't know that we necessarily have a particular recommendation, but if there is, maybe you could point that out.
Definitely. And once again, as always, to preface these conversations, please be very, very conservative in any kind of investments you make into hardware for the sake of farming or mining when you think about ROI. And this applies to broadly most protocols, but just something that I like to mention before we get into the hardware discussion. So please don't go out and buy, $10,000 worth of hard drives. Just keep those kinds of things in mind when doing your analysis. But as far as the best hardware to use for farming on Subspace, up until this point, hard drives have been kind of the suggestion and kind of a go-to, obviously, for cost, especially cost for capacity compared to capacity. But one thing that we'll probably want to mention as we move forward is that SSDs are probably going to be a little bit more friendlier when it comes to commitment phases. And this is something that we're hopefully going to have more information coming out on here in the coming weeks. But ultimately, if you're looking to find the best performance-wise, it's going to be some kind of SSD. And that's strictly because of the differences in the way random reads and writes work on a hard drive versus an SSD. With an SSD, it's a lot. There's no moving parts. For a hard drive, to find some random location, you have to spin the disk all the way to full speed, and it just takes more time, and it kind of gets a little clunky when it comes to those physical disks. So I would suggest probably to lean on the side of the SSD. As for exactly which type of SSD, M.2 and NVMe, SATA, that's still up in the air. Obviously, I would probably go for one of the higher performant SSDs that you can. Just in the sake of ensuring that it's as optimal as possible. But to be honest with you, any SSD should be plenty quick enough to operate amazingly with the Subspace network. But once again, we'll have some more details regarding exactly the specifics on hard drives versus SSDs coming out with some of the updates that our development team has been working on.
Awesome. And another component of that, I guess, staying along that same topic, Justin, not just the best ones to use, but because this was capped at 100 gig, there was a lot of conversations about people parsing that up. Am I better off running 425 gig farms, or should I just run one 100 gig farm? And of course, by the very nature of Subspace and the way it is plotting the data to the hard drives, you would think it's the same, but is there a difference in doing subplots versus one large farm, maybe from a performance standpoint or potentially a reward standpoint? Is there any difference?
Yeah, so really, in my eyes, the main difference is going to be overhead from like the node operator's perspective, as far as labor and things like that go. Ultimately, I would suggest running one farm unless like absolutely necessary to run another. And in my eyes, really the only reason you should be running another is if maybe you have two different drives that you're trying to farm from. But even then, in the future, actually, this has already been built in. It was just disabled for the last version of the testnet. We already actually support multi-drive farming from a farmer, meaning you can specify drive A and specify drive B, and both of them will be plotted and farmed on. That's probably the ideal method, because any duplication of running, let's say if you run 4 farmers at 25 instead of 100, you're quadrupling your CPU overhead. And now while the Subspace farmer is very low as far as CPU performance and RAM usage and stuff like that goes, it's still just kind of a wasted overhead that doesn't need to be there with no major benefit. You're not going to likely see an increase in rewards on one or four 25s versus one 100, because as always, it's the storage space that really, excuse me, participates in the consensus. So it boils down to how much are you pledging to the network, and
So
it
what if
doesn't
somebody
necessarily.
I saw Nazar had responded to someone out there, and this is something that's come up as well, Justin. But if somebody's combining multiple hard drives, maybe into a RAID array or something like that, is that something that's currently supported or will be supported? And how would that fit into what you were just saying in terms of performance and rewards and everything like that?
Yeah. So a RAID array is supported strictly because it's kind of configured a layer lower than, as far as the operating system is concerned, a RAID is a single drive. Um, Now, as far as performance goes, you probably will see some degradation in that area because ultimately, you know, it's showing as one drive, but it's really not. So there's still going to have to be some computation and RAM usage, dedicating, this byte goes to drive A and this byte goes to drive B. Now, granted, there are what you can get called like RAID controllers, and some of these things will help offload that performance away from the CPU to like a secondary card in your computer. But once again, at this point, it's almost a question of, is that all worth it? Maybe it'd be easier to just buy another drive and just, once it comes out, use multi-drive supported farming as well, which is also why we built that in, because it just kind of circumvents that headache that will come with the RAID configuration. Because there's a bunch of nuance when it comes to exactly how RAID works, and how the operating system sees it as well, depending on if it's like a virtual drive or a physical drive, and then it just it's mostly like kind of a software thing, but it just does add a little bit of a layer of complexity to your setup there.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's something that's going to come up more in the future as we start getting into larger farms and people combining, of course, when they want to add a lot of storage. I think that we'll be hearing a lot more about that. One other thing that I've been seeing, Justin, and we've talked about the people in our community that have been building these ancillary software platforms for things like reporting and so forth, about RPC endpoints. What do we have, if anything, currently for RPC endpoints, and what will we be introducing for people to be able to point to Subspace and potentially extract data, maybe some of the use cases along those lines?
Yeah. So the RPC points is just how broadly how a developer will connect to a blockchain, or really any other program. RPC is used in various programs on computers, but in the sense of a blockchain, it's how, for example, if you were to make like a block explorer, that's how Etherscan connects to Ethereum. They use an RPC connection point to capture all of that data and all the on-chain data and query addresses and what have you. We do have a few ones that are, I guess, they are public, but they're not necessarily configured for development. So you can use them to test with and mess around with. But what I would suggest to use is our Subsquid RPC points that we're currently in the process of getting configured. So Subsquid is one of the partners in the .ksm ecosystem, and they actually their whole value proposition is actually providing these development RPC points. So we'll have some more information for that out here shortly. But that will ultimately allow developers to connect to the Subspace network and start messing around with things, building block explorers or any kind of other additional tools they may want to on top of the network. And obviously those will be continuing to update and being pointed to the newest networks as we go. So currently our RPC endpoints are pointing to Gemini 2A. But one thing you can do to always try, if you're just looking to try and figure out one of our RPC endpoints, you can always pull up polkadot.js.org, and on the left, if you switch over to the Subspace Network 2A and look in the URL, you will actually see the URL for one of our RPC points. And that's actually, to be honest with you, the easiest way to find, at least basic ones for all of the substrate-based networks. But as mentioned, those are just kind of more as is. We'll have a more official and professional one coming out here shortly. for all of you users who would like to mess around with that.
Yeah, back to what you had asked me before, Justin, about what did I see that was kind of exciting. I would point this out as one of those things. Now we're starting to talk about not just infrastructure. We're all running nodes, we're running farms, we're running the foundation, right? Just keeping the blockchain operating. But when we start getting into people building things on top of Subspace, that's what it's really all about. And it's great to see that's starting to happen now. In the early testnet phases, it was just about getting the nodes and farmers to communicate and then decoupling the execution from the storage component. But now that we're really starting to get further along, it's really exciting to see all the things that people are building. They will connect to these endpoints, and we'll see Subspace start to be a platform, and we'll start to see the ecosystem evolve. And that's something that I find really exciting. So I would add that to what you had said before. Um, and before we had spoken about the game, I know I think Skylord, as I mentioned, is in the audience, and I see he is in fact in the audience. And so I would say, Sky, if you want to hop on and you want to talk about the game at all, I know there's been some exciting stuff. You've done a lot of work on this. If you want to raise your hand, I don't know if you're available, but if you are and you would love to come up to the stage and say a few things, please raise your hand, and we'll go ahead and we'll bring you up. It looks like we do have somebody here now, Justin. I don't want to try to pronounce that, but Ideku Bagus, it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and invite you to speak. If you would like to accept the invitation, you can come up to the stage. We'd love to hear from you. So that invitation is pending. Um, but in the meantime, Sky, again, if you want to pop up, that would be great. Just go ahead and raise your hand. Um, but Justin, while we're waiting for him, I know we're getting up against time. We've got a couple minutes left. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about, or should we go ahead and start to close out while we see if we get anybody to come up to the stage?
The last couple questions from Ivan here in the office hours chat. Did one more question from the community. Will there be a difference between farming on SSDs and NVMe? An NVMe is an SSD, so there won't be any difference as far as Subspace goes. There are some kinds of differences in SSDs and NVMe's and M.2s and all of these kinds of things on exactly the performance that they get within the network or within your computer, but it's not going to be too effective or performant on the Subspace farmer. Really, it's just a matter of it being solid state memory or not. So that's really the main focus. So shouldn't be too much of an issue there, Ivan. And your second question, are you planning Gemini 4 after Gemini 3, or you plan mainnet beta? Well, obviously, this is up to how Gemini 3 goes and future versions go. But the current plan is still, as what we've been iterating over the time of, Gemini 3. Hopefully, once we finish out Gemini 3, we can then start to go into mainnet beta. And then once we finish out mainnet beta, off to the races at the mainnet. But as mentioned, like we've always said, we're going to take the time needed to do it right. So if we do have some issues or find some other, blockers that need to be addressed in Gemini 3, we won't hesitate to do Gemini 4 if it's required. But once again, we also know that you have all been very patient and are excited to get the network up and running on mainnet. So we're hoping we can avoid it. We'll just kind of have to see as it comes.
And I don't think anybody is probably as anxious, in addition to the community, Justin, as the team. We've obviously dedicated ourselves full time to getting this done. So just know that we are 100% focused on this. As I said before, the team is growing, and we're looking for people who want to do translations, people that want to provide support in Discord, in the forums. We're really excited to get more people involved. So please reach out to us if you'd like to do that, or if you have other things, front ends that you want to bring, other ways you think that we can help explore and build on the Subspace ecosystem, that would be great. In the future, what I think Justin is planning to do is we're certainly going to look to have more people come on. And if you have suggestions, if there's a particular department or person within the Subspace ecosystem, maybe you have a favorite ambassador or someone on the team or a community member that you think has a lot to add, go ahead and suggest them. And we would love to bring somebody on and we can Q&A. We can talk about the Subspace ecosystem, how they think they can work with it. Um, So we're always looking for good guests. So tune in the future, and we will certainly have some coming up. There's a few other exciting projects that we just want to shout out to again. Subwallet, which we've mentioned in the past, and I think Justin, they just launched a mobile version, did they not? So now there's a way to actually to do this on your phone and check your subspace tokens. Correct?
They did. Yeah, I got to give credit to the Sub Wallet team. I don't, at least from what I've seen, I don't see anybody pushing the Substrate wallet barrier as much as they are. If I'm not mistaken, no, I think it's like the second or third mobile Substrate wallet that we've seen. But I've messed with it. It is still in early alpha, so they would love to hear any feedback that you all have. Go in there, test it out. Um, but keep in mind it's in alpha, so you might find some bugs and what have you. But they'd love to hear any feedback you all have. I personally think it looks really great, super seamless, and looks really modern and nice. Super happy with the Sub Wallet team. I'm super glad to have them in our community, supporting all of you, because I truly do think they're bringing the best experience to the substrate-based wallet ecosystem.
Yeah, and as you had said before, Justin, with the overall economic outlook and the way the market's been, it's been pretty dismal. I think everyone would agree with that. But to see all this activity is just super encouraging. And, we encourage everyone to stay involved. And if we can do all this in this type of market, I can't wait until things turn because I really think that it's going to go in our favor. And we're going to see a lot more being built on subspace. And we can't wait to see what it brings. So it looks like we're up against time, Justin. Do you have any final thoughts, I guess, before we close out?
That was everything for me. Thanks for coming, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you here again in 2 weeks and look for the agenda. And again, if you have any other questions, please put them in the Discord, put them in the forum, and we would love to hear from you. Thanks for coming, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening, afternoon, or morning. Take care.
Everybody.